Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters Net podcast. I'm your host Brian. And joining me today is a special guest hailing from Chicago. It's Nate from the band Bond of Iniquity. How you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing?
Not too bad. How's Chicago this time of the year?
Cold.
Do tell.
Cold and dreary. Yeah, kind of looks like Seattle out there right now. It's real, not a lot of sun, but brighter times ahead, hopefully.
A dream of spring is right around the corner. Before you know it. Actually, I don't know if you pay attention to Groundhog's Day with Punxsutawney Phil. Apparently, he didn't see a shadow, or it could be the other way around. I don't know how that tradition works.
Yeah, he's been wrong before, but here's hoping.
I think I just wanted to do it just as a nice little money grab or something. So, how you been recently? What's new?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. Been really busy creating. Been just writing a ton of songs. I've been on a run for, how many months now? 4 or 5 months now, where just about every day I've been pumping out songs, song ideas, and just been really inspired lately. So it's been spending a lot of time in the studio.
That's good to hear. And you get to elaborate more on your music in just a little bit here, but Nate, I want to welcome you to my podcast right here. The way it's going to work is going to get to know you more, both as the musician, but also as the individual too. So, got the questions right here. You all ready?
Yep.
All right. Actually, first off, are you a big Chicago Blackhawks fan? Whenever they do the da 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 da.
My brother-in-laws are. They're the big hockey guys. I'm actually from Valparaiso, Indiana, and I didn't know anything about hockey until I moved over here. And then everybody let me know. And so, I watch it when they come over. But I grew up with baseball and football. So.
All right. That's pretty cool. All right. But let's first get to know you more in general, I guess. Who are you? And I guess, how did you become a musician?
Well, became a musician, when I was 5 years old, my mom put me in piano lessons. And wanted to give me a little bit of a musical background because my family really doesn't have one. There's no natural musical talent in my family. Everything's learned. I have an older sister that was a really good singer and pretty decent piano player. But piano didn't last long for me. Like anything, when you're that age and your parents say you should do this, you tend to go the opposite way. So I think my biggest moment as a piano player was the only recital I remember doing. I played the theme song to the Dukes of Hazzard, and I also remember that afterwards there was a kind of a buffet, and my piano teacher made monkey ball cake. And I don't know if you know what monkey ball cake is, but it was like life changing. So that was a big deal. So that's as much really as I did with piano until much later. 10 years old, my friend Dusty had a harmony guitar with one rusty string on it. And I always wanted to play guitar since I first heard the rock band Kiss. Ace Frehley, it was everything to me as a kid. And my thing before I got that guitar, which my mom actually gave me $10 to give Dusty for that guitar. So that was my first guitar. But I used to, when I'd play in my room, I'd play like I was Kiss. So I'd put my Kiss record on and I'd get a yardstick, and that was my guitar. And, back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was no internet. I had no idea. I just saw them on this, the cover of this album. I'm like, okay, I'm sure he's doing some cool stuff. So I didn't learn any of his real moves till later when I saw a video of him. Like, oh, okay, now you got to do this and that. And but that was my childhood. I spent a lot of time listening to and mimicking Kiss. So, but after that, when I was 10, I got the guitar. A couple years later, I got an actual decent guitar from a pawn shop in town, and started taking lessons from Gratz Piano in downtown Valparaiso, Indiana. And later moved on from there to Rubino's Music in Maryville, Indiana, and took lessons from a couple people there, and then ended up teaching there. Ended up in high school, and so spent a couple years teaching there, and always wrote my own music. I wasn't interested in other people's music for a long time. Kiss, I was big into them. I was big into Metallica when they first came out. But after that, it was all about writing music. And I wrote goofy stuff when I was real young, and it started to mature a little bit more as I got older. But by the time I was 15 years old, I was in a band called Voodoo Moses. And they were an established Valparaiso, Indiana punk/metal band that had just lost their guitar player. And that was like, from then on, I was always in bands, doing sound, always involved. And that was a long time ago. So
I'm just picturing trying to do like all the moves. Guess why? It's like,
oh man, yeah, and like, exactly, all the synchronized moves and stuff. I'm not gonna do it, but I can.
I'm gonna say, did you try to improvise the Gene Simmons thing? He does 100,000 years, get the blood coming out, little tongue and everything.
My friend Sam, he was the bass player, and so he was Gene. So I let him do the Gene thing. I was always Ace. I loved Ace. You know, I wanted to shoot fireballs out of my headstock.
It was either that or a picture like you just bring out the torch and everything, just go.
Yeah.
I forget what our song you did it, but I think the main one originally was Firehouse, and then
Firehouse, yeah, yep.
I did see him live, and that was pre-pandemic actually, and I forget which song it was that he actually did do that stunt. I think it was a different one.
That's usually at the end of Firehouse. Yeah, they have the sirens, and then Gene comes out there with the thing, spikes it.
It's something. I think it was a different song when I saw him live, but it was only just like. I wanted to see him because the videos I saw on YouTube, they were always like 1975, 1976, with like them in Winterland, and then I want to say it was Detroit was the other one.
Cobo Hall.
I forget, something like that, yeah.
Yep.
So still always kicked ass, but I felt like Winterland was the best one because it seemed like it was right pace and everything too.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't pronounce Parasite right, he's like, it's off the new album. It's called Parrot.
Yeah.
Really put out the whole way.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny.
Kiss bloopers are fantastic.
Yeah, that's for sure too. And I don't know if they're still doing an arena football league. I think they had the LA Kiss.
The LA Kiss. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. That was short lived. I think that was one season.
Maybe. I'm not too sure.
They had the fire on the jersey and stuff.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, hey,
right.
You gotta make the most out of life, to be honest.
They're master marketers. They know
that's
for
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to tell me twice. And actually, my dad always saw him a good bit because I'm from Pittsburgh, actually. And
okay.
They always came to what was called originally a Stanley Theater. I think it's called the Ben and Them now. And that's where they mostly performed everything, too. It's all Ted Nugent, and it was always mainly like an opening act every now and again, too. Who else? They always saw a good number of groups always came through. That was when classic rock was at its prime, we should say.
Yeah.
So that's why everyone was out there kicking some major butt and everything, too.
Right.
So.
Much bigger shows than today. I just saw Ted Nugent on his final stop here because he's retiring. And, yeah, it was pretty cool. He had a little 3-piece, and he played some of his original guitars from, like Double Live Gonzo and, like, the actual Birdlands that he played on. He had him out on tour with him. We're like, whoa, that's really cool.
He seemed to go off the rails a little bit there, too, I think.
Oh, yeah, he's a wild man. He's unapologetic.
You're telling me.
Who he is. Yep.
But enough about that. Let's go ahead and talk about you in general, too. So I guess let's go into Bond of Iniquity. So I guess how did it form and where'd you get the name?
Okay. So Bond of Iniquity is really new. The end of October is when it was official. And I started writing officially for Bond of Iniquity. The name comes from Scripture, the book of Acts, 8:23. And it's personal. It's really personal to me that so iniquity is sin, and being bound by it. It's kind of like the saying, the beatings will continue until morale improves. As you continue to do the same sins, it keeps you held down and keeps you from your potential. And I found myself in that, and I see a lot of people in that. And so it made a lot of sense to me right away that was going to be the name, that was going to be the theme. So that's where that came from. But I'd been writing Christian themed music for about a year prior to that. And a lot of it came from like around COVID. We had a lot of self-reflection time. Everybody had a lot of time to, you could either stare at a wall or you could figure stuff out, and figured a lot of stuff out during COVID with time off. We were that was shock and awe to a lot of people, for a lot of things. Myself, definitely. So, but that's how it came about.
That's pretty cool. And, I figure it was a Bible verse, too, because that's what a lot of your music's kind of focused on, too. You pull out a lot of stuff from, like, a lot of scriptures and stuff. Is that how your lyrics are all composed?
So the thing that makes this unique is that, and I don't know of anybody else that's doing this, and I could be wrong, but everything, titles and lyrics are all scripture. There's not a word that's not scripture, and nothing in context. Everything is, if it's from this book and it's from this verse to this verse, and that's the song, and I fit it into the music that I'm doing.
That's very cool, I guess. Because when you were kind of describing some of the bands you're a part of before, I guess. So were you raised Christian, and then you kind of put it on the back burner a little bit, and kind of came back to it?
Yeah, totally. My mom gave me the chance. She's the one that put me in it early. And so I was raised in the church up until about junior high, when I started really rebelling, and music had a lot to do with it. I was in youth groups, Awana. I did all that stuff. Went on trips with the church. And looking back on it, I never really got it. I was always too flighty, and I never absorbed what I was supposed to be absorbing. It was all about the experience of being with the other kids and doing stuff, and it was never about what it was supposed to be about. And I abandoned it, and for a long time, 30 some years. So it's just been recently, in the past few years, that I started reevaluating everything, and being bound by those iniquities that I was talking about, this cyclical stuff that keeps happening in life, and wondering, well, you're not going to get a different outcome by doing the same thing all the time. So it's like, what am I doing wrong? What is this? Why do I keep doing these things? Or why are the outcomes this way? And well, they had a coming to Jesus thing, where it's like, I can't do this on my own. So.
And your mother helped. I was gonna say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yep. So I'm very green. I'm learning, and I should say that nobody should look at me as a teacher for anything right now. I'm learning. I'm absorbing and trying to better myself. And at the same time, but the reason for doing scripture only is because I don't want to put any more bad. Not that everything that I was doing was bad, but I don't want to put my interpretations of things out there when I don't fully understand. And when I had this idea to do just scripture, I'm like, man, you can't argue with it. It's like, that's the word of God. These are the authors. If you got a problem, you got a problem with them. It's so there's no interpretation here. It's straight scripture. If you got an issue with me, it's with the music I play, and hey, is what it is.
It's almost like, you got a problem with me?
Yeah.
You got a problem with me?
Yeah.
So, you're good. And actually, it's good to see you make a full circle, as they would like to say, too, in the metaphorical sort of sense as well. Yeah. So I would say it was kind of along the lines of like how Pete Sandoval was from the death metal band Morbid Angel. He was the drummer and the grandfather of the blast beat, as they would like to call him, too.
Yep.
I don't know if he was born into Christianity and then he just kind of abandoned it and then he came back to it.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, when I think of those guys, I think of that song, God of Emptiness, and like to come from that to where he's at now is like, wow, it's kind of inspiring. It's like, man, you can come from the depths, dude, and Jesus is still here for you. It's like, come on, I know, let's get rid of it. Let's be new.
Well, I have to admit, I do have guilty pleasures every now and again, but it's controlled darkness. That's what we like to say too.
Yeah, right.
Because it's still influential in its own sort of way too.
It's a part of you. It's a part of you, whether you like it or not. I mean, your past is your past, and I try not to repeat mistakes, but You got to be honest about it too, you know. And
I
it's
use it
good.
also.
That's how you grow.
I would say I also like using it as like learning experiences too. So I like learning how he did the drum patterns and everything too.
Hmm.
But I will admit I'm also guilty of listening to Dia's side as well, who's
Oh
probably the
man.
more blasphemous one. So,
Yep.
and quite ironically, the one guitar player, which was on the Stench of Redemption album, that was Ralph Santolo. May rest in peace. He's no longer with us, and he was actually a Catholic, and he's playing
Really?
in this. Yeah, and he's playing in the most straightforward blasphemous group you can think of.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah. Glenn Benton is something else. Mm.
he's an interesting character.
Yeah.
So I can only pray for him, but he's got to make the decision, so we'll let him
Yeah.
decide. So
Right.
he actually came out with a new song recently, and wouldn't you believe he did it on Christmas Day?
Yeah.
Oh, no, he was smart, too, though. He was smart. When he did Sense of Redemption, that was right on June 6th of 2006. So he had, of course, the devil's number, the 3 6s. So,
Right.
oh, man, it was clever. I'll give him that much.
Yeah.
But we'll digress. We'll not get into the satanic dark side anymore. So, I guess, let's see. Talked about the music a little bit, too. I guess, who did you consider has been your biggest influence? Because I do remember Christian metal seemed to like really come into the spotlight late 80s and 90s there with Mortification and Living Sacrifice. Do those guys inspire you too?
No. In fact, I haven't even heard of them until lately. Seriously, I had zero Christian metal influences. Stryper, nobody that the bands that I was in and how things were changing back then. I just never. They were one of those bands that I never got into. Mortification, I've just heard recently, and they're super heavy. And I've got a lot of research to do. Everything that all my influences really are secular, so it all comes from starting with Kiss. I went through the Bay Area thrash stuff, the Megadeth and Metallica and Testament and all those bands, Anthrax. Then in the early 90s, Pantera, Sepultura, Chicago Industrial. Back then, Al Jorgensen was living in Chicago and working at a studio that my buddy worked at. So Ministry, and I hate admitting that. Not a fan anymore. But at KMFDM, his producer, Martin Stebbing, worked in the studio that I worked at. And so I got some one-on-ones with them and learned a lot then in the early 90s in the studio with those guys. And Sasha, and those guys are brilliant. Trust me, just absolutely wow. The stuff that, you can't get in a book or an instructional video, really cool stuff. And super experimental and afraid of nothing. So yeah, bands like that. One band I'd really like to point out. There's a band that formed in the 80s and they're still going. Different members. But the one constant member is Steve Blaze from the band Lillian Axe, and he's a Christian. And throughout the years, he's injected God into his music, and I respected that. I'm like, man, that's cool. That's a guy that's not afraid to put that. And he was almost mainstream for a little bit, and then they dropped off the planet, and now they're doing clubs again. But they had some stuff that was just unbelievable. And he's such a great guitar player too. Crazy underrated. A lot of people don't know who he is. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Steve Blaze, and the band's Lillian Axe. They're incredible, and their current lineup is really good. I went through a period without them because I was mad that they got rid of their singer and Ron Taylor, and I loved Ron Taylor. He's just a angelic voice, just awesome, powerful, so cool. And when they got rid of him, things definitely changed. When you get rid of the voice, it's like, well, now it's a different band. But Lillian Axe is a huge influence. So.
It was almost like how they got rid of Ozzy Osbourne and then they brought in Ronnie James Dio afterwards to fill in his shoes.
Right. It's a different band. Don't call it Black Sabbath. I loved it. I'm still, that stuff is really cool to me. But yeah, it's not. Ozzy was Sabbath.
Oh no, it was just more of an analogy. Kind of like,
right.
It was that big of a shock, to be honest, too. They had to bring in somebody else. And it's like, no, that's not the, in this case, it's not the Black Sabbath with Ozzy.
Right.
So
Right. Ozzy was about crazy and not, such powerful and, the Dio vocal. Holy cow. He was a singer. That guy was like a serious singer. Although he would have said, nah, I didn't even warm up before I went on stage. He just goes out there and, like, how does somebody do that?
like, holy crap, man. That's like an opera singer going on out there.
Yeah.
So that's all cool. So I guess let's go ahead and jump into COVID a little bit too, because I know you mentioned it earlier, because you did some self-reflection during it. I guess, how bad did it impact you, your family, and music?
Well, so I'm an audio engineer by trade, and the past 21 years I spent a lot on the road, a lot in Chicago, doing corporate audio, and so that all came to a screeching halt. Obviously, there's no more shows. So, I was already on the fence with a lot of that. I was working with a lot of clients that I wasn't aligned with, and I was finding this out more and more as time went on. That it also has a lot to do with with my faith, things that don't align with my faith, and things that are dead set against it. And I was having to do every day, and that's tough to be around something that's dragging you down, and then coming home and trying to be different. And it's like it's exhausting, especially when if I'm working local. Traffic in Chicago is terrible, and I live in the suburbs, so it was an hour and a half to 2 hours going in, 10 hours minimum during the day, and then the same coming back. So what do you have time for besides sleep? Brutal. So I was thinking a lot during COVID about, what am I going to do career-wise? I never meant to get into that side of audio. I got into audio because I was doing sound for bands, because out of necessity, because nobody else wanted to do it. And that's when I was a kid. When I first got my car, I got a PA too. So, so COVID affected me that way. I lost my best friend like almost immediately. I lost my grandma, my uncle, another friend in Indiana, a lot of stuff. I lost any sort of sliver of hope that I had, that about government, about a lot of things. Just you just look outside and say, is any of this real? Like, what is going on? And I think a lot of people felt that. I don't want to get into the politics side of all that, and we all know what happened. We all lived it. So I just hope that people are smarter the next time around. Hopefully there's not a next time around, but so COVID was brutal. It was life-changing. It was a complete reset, in a lot of bad ways, a complete reset in the best way. I found my faith. So, that was COVID.
I see. And I'm really sorry to hear that, mate. I hope you're doing okay right now. So
Yeah, I am. It's, you don't lose those people forever. They stay right here. And you try to think the good instead of, the bad stuff.
Amen to that. Yeah. And I guess, did you have any brushes with COVID personally? Did you guys got sick pretty bad?
Yeah. So my wife's in hotel sales, and so she brought it home. And then, so I got it. And then we had another brush with it. Actually, just this past year, we came home from Florida with it. We went down there for a wedding and came back with it. So yeah, it's but for us though, and I can't believe it, because who knows what that stuff is and how it affects people. It just seems so random. Just when you think that it affects this type of people or just older people, or then a billion cases will come up that will say, no, that's not true. So my wife and I, though, both times we got it, it was like the flu. The first time a little worse than the second time. The second time was like a cold. So, and we just knew that we had it because we tested. But, the grace of God, man, we didn't go down like the less fortunate. So
Yeah. I would say definitely doing those tests. It was, you definitely had to stick it up the nose too, man. That is just annoying as heck, to be
right,
honest.
that whole everything about it, it's not. None of it was good.
I mean, my eyes were watering. I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, hold it.
Right?
Then she finally
Right?
takes it out. It's like, oh,
Did
thank
you
the
get
Lord.
it?
You know what? Mine was, it's kind of a funny story, but me and my parents, we actually went to Nashville, and this was October. It was now 2 years ago already. Jeez, time doesn't stand still. And it was cool down there, and you go and party on Broadway, doing bar hopping and see all the cover bands and everything too.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, when we're coming back, my dad gets it, and then he passed it on to me. So, and I tried hopping on my drum set, just trying to maybe sweat it out and try that. And I just couldn't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
my body
Yeah.
was that fatigued.
Yeah. Yeah. You get really weak. It's weird.
It was that, and then I woke up with a fever that night, and I was here thinking I can either jump in the shower and turn the heat up as high as I can, or just put on my sweatpants and then just kind of make like a little cocoon with my blankets and everything. So
Yeah.
I did the latter option, which definitely seemed to help. So
Good.
I got through it nonetheless. Had to go on those little Paxlovid little tablets they give you.
Oh, did you do that? Did that work?
You know what? It doesn't necessarily cure it, but it helps lessen the symptoms, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yep.
So,
Yep.
it felt like it worked because, hey, I'm right here. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
so it works. So,
Yep.
but it's good to see you guys made it through too. And
Yeah.
it's good to see you came out better and stronger. All the better
Yep.
too.
Yep.
Keep on rocking, brother.
Right on.
So, I guess since we talked about that too, I guess let's go ahead and jump into the Christian music scene these days, particularly
Okay.
more on the metal side, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem, I was kind of going through that too, where I was like kind of looking at Christian metal bands, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed like they were always like a little late, for instance.
Okay.
Like going back into Mortification and Live in Sacrifice, they kind of brought in like that thrash and heavy metal influence. But it seemed like there was always, the secular bands were always a little ahead of them, and then they just came a little later. And then it seemed like in the 2000s, maybe up until now, they started doing more of the deathcore sort of phase, where maybe it was maybe slightly different, but it was more of always the breakdowns and everything too. So I guess,
Mm-hmm.
have you noticed anything different with the Christian metal scene these days?
Well, that's a bad question for me because I really don't know. I honestly don't know. Everything that I was into was secular, any Christian artist that I'm learning about now, I'm literally learning about now, and recently, and more so than the big ones, like you were saying, like Mortification, Striper, of course. The more indie ones, there's a band called Hard Look. There's another one called Fumakoffer, and they're really cool. They're like boundary pushers, stuff I'd never heard before, and that's really cool. And to be honest, I don't listen to a lot of music for quite a while. I haven't, and the reason why is because that's what I do for a living. And so when I'm listening to music, it's usually mixes. It's a lot of my own stuff. Not because this is what I like because I made it. It's because I'm refining or finding things that I like and don't like, and I'm like, oh well, let's move this around. And by the time you're done with that, you don't really want to listen to music. I might put on sports radio, or I might listen to silence or my dog's barking, or it's I just don't I don't really I'm finding more time for it now. And that's good because now I'm finding these Christian artists, and a lot of the stuff, it comes from Facebook. There's some people that I've met on there that are awesome and they're just so good at what they do and young and a completely different perspective that I have no idea about. I don't even get it. And, some of this stuff, it's just like, the first time I heard Fumakoffer, I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds like, and I sound like an old guy. I am an old guy, but it sounded like just a wall of noise. And then I listened a little bit closer and I'm like, okay, that's all guitar there. This big part right here is guitar and there's drums popping through every once in a while. And I'm like, I don't get that mix. I don't understand that. But then I understood that there's other people that are doing that, and that's actually a thing. Okay, I was never a part of that. I don't know anything about this, but then also there's Christian back to it. He's singing about things from Scripture and his own thoughts on Christian views and things, and oh man, this is cool. So I needed that. I didn't need to hear the same stuff that I'm used to hearing, but just with somebody, so like a Striper. I've heard that all my life, not Striper, but bands like that. So these new guys that are really pushing boundaries are cool, man, and I'm really digging that. So that's been lately. But as far as before lately, I have no background. I'm learning. Really.
I will say you will love Living Sacrifice's self-titled album. That was their very first album. That was, I'm sorry to say it too, but this is what people are kind of describing it as. It would be like Slayer, but with Christian lyrics. So.
Oh wow.
maybe because of guitar work, it was all fast paced and everything too. It was pretty much what typical thrash was.
Yeah.
Fast guitar was always the drums go.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So,
okay.
But it still kicks some major butt. I would say
awesome.
That much. But a band I also had gotten into, it was Onward to Olympus, and I think sadly I think they broke up. They went out their separate ways and everything. But they did a couple albums together. Even have a T-shirt as well. So I think when I do God of War, I'm going to wear that whenever I do my video games.
Olympus, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to jot that down and check it out.
Yeah, they were sort of along the lines of the deathcore sort of style, but they do have some solos kind of mixed in like here and there too, and then a little bit of a little mix between your growls, that sort of vocals, and then the clean vocals as well. So
okay, cool.
Still kick some butt, but I do wish they would kind of come back. So
yeah,
remains to be seen. We'll see what happens too. And so I guess we can go ahead and jump into the gear a little bit too, because I think your guitar's been screaming at me back there too, because we see the big V behind us.
Oh yeah, the Solar. Yeah, got a couple of those. There's a 1.6 Solar V over there, and there's a 2.6 behind me. Those are a couple of my favorite newer guitars.
I guess if you want to walk us through what you got right there, and then I guess also in terms of the gear you use for recording, go ahead.
Yeah. So, let's see. All right. So that's a Solar 2.6 V, and I put some Black & Winter pickups in it. The stock pickups were fine. I just can't live with generic stock pickups. It was more about I'm putting my own thing in this. Next to it is a Schecter Scorpion. That's a baritone. That's got the Zakk Wylde 8185 EMG in it. Next to that, the green one, that's a Schecter Kenny Hickey model from Typo Negative, and that's got the Sustainiac pickup in the neck. So I'm sure you're hip. Yeah, you play a note, and until you let it go, it's still going. And there's different modes that you can make it. You can make an amp sim sound like you're playing through a real amp. Feedback wise, it'll go wee, turn the note into the super high thing. Pretty cool. Okay, so then next to those are my Dimebag guitars. The black one's the Culprit, and the 333 Dime Slime is next to that. They're both Washburns. I got those back when I worked at a pawn shop in the 90s. And I'm not sure how far. Okay, and then next to that is a Jackson. I got that really cheap during COVID. I play it once in a while. It's okay. I don't know. It's one of those that maybe I'll end up trading off for something else someday. That red Ibanez there I've had for a long time, since I think 90. That's the original Joe Satriani S540, and that guitar is awesome. It's got Bill Lawrence pickups in it, the XL500, and two of the L250s single coils. And let's see, can you see the corner there? Yeah. Then there's a Paul Reed Smith there. It's the SE, one of the cheaper ones. I wanted to try it and see if I even liked Paul Reed Smith. I got it off Reverb, and I dig it, but it's like it doesn't nail one sound. I have other guitars that do better in each one of the things that thing does. So I'm on the fence with that one too. Got a couple basses down there. They're Spectre basses. I got the green Spectre bass I got. I think that was also 1990 when I got that. And PJ Rubel, who was a co-owner of Spectre at the time, told me how to really make that bass smoke, and it was he told me about the brass nut for that particular model, and put the brass nut on there, and it changed it, man. So I've been using that bass for most everything for most of my life since. Really cool bass. But yeah, I mean, I've got a ton of guitars, and these are the ones that I have out. Right, there's some around me this way too. Got a couple Strats, an old Charvel Model 6, a couple Les Pauls, some other SGs and other stuff. Got a little 3/4 size Jackson 2, like a Rhodes. That it doesn't stay in tune, but for the second that it does, it's a lot of fun to play. Those things are cool. So yeah, that's guitar gear. I got various amplifiers. I'm a Marshall fan. I got a couple Marshall cabinets with like the early 90s V30s, the British V30s in them. Let's see. I use Logic Pro as a DAW. I used to be a big I used to be a big Pro Tools guy, and in 2002 I went to Arizona and got certified in all kinds of things, Pro Tools wise, and right around that time is when they made this a big switch over company wise, and I had lost my authorizations through them, and they weren't very nice about it. They never returned calls for months. I'm like, please, this is what I do. Like, I can, what do I? And the reason why I lost them is because I switched computers. So I learned a big lesson then, but I also was very stubborn about, like, what? I'm not giving you any more of my money. I don't care that I went, I moved for a year of my life to do all this stuff. I'm done with DigiDesign at the time, and then whatever they are now, I don't even care. But anyway, I got into Logic right after that, and haven't looked back. I love Logic. It works. It works for me. Works
my brother.
Flow. Yeah. The making templates in Logic and keeping them so accessible makes, you can literally go and just be like, boom, let's record, and it has everything I need already preset because I already designed all that. So love Logic. My outboard stuff, I use Audient. It was pretty inexpensive. I have the ID44 and the ASP 800. They're really, really solid pre's. They handle transients very well. And so the microphone pre's are great. And also they have DIs in them that are some of the best DIs I've used. And it's crazy because it's like it's built in, like into the ID44. They have 2 of them built in. And they sound better than most direct boxes that I know of. So that was a big seller for me. And for at the time, I think the ID44 was like $500. Okay, And I think the ASP was like less than 1,000, and that gives you an additional 8 channels. And yeah, so I run 96K 24-bit, and I can run all 12 channels at the same time. So. Can't beat it, man, for the price. Now we could go Neve, we could, there's plenty of other higher end stuff, but you're talking, you got to make that kind of money to justify it, and I don't. So.
I say, gotta earn that money. That money.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Did you say what your mics were? I thought they were like Audio Technicas.
So no, actually, the only one really worth talking about that I love is the Slate Digital M1. I'm fully bought into Slate, and I have been for a couple years now. They do mic modeling, so that you have this very sterile, boring sounding mic on its own. It's just flat. It's just like you could buy any $200 mic and it'll sound around the same. But this one is tailored in a way that they have mic sims that work with it with that frequency response. So you could say, I want a Sony, I want a U87, I want whatever. And you have this locker of microphones on your computer, and Now I'm doing metal, okay? So you're not hearing this a lot, but when I'm not, if I'm doing something that's more detailed, you hear these things, and it's cool. And to have access to that kind of a mic locker for that kind of a price it's good to be alive in these times. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not buying a U87. You know, I used to borrow those from my boss. But that's really the only one worth it. I mean, I have 57s, 58s. I got this TZ audio thing. I don't know. Got a matched pair of Audio Technicas over there. But they're, you know, I don't even really use this stuff a lot anymore. I'm not doing a lot of even miking guitar cabinets. A lot of it's Sims. Sims have come a long way. When Sims first came out, I had the Axis 212 made by Line 6, and the thing was like weighed 8 billion pounds. It's a 212 amp, and it had this huge floorboard with, you know, the dual expression pedals on it and stuff, and I thought it was the greatest. And then you play it, and I'm like, you can't get a sound that sounds like anything out of this. And so I hated, you know, any kind of simulation. It's like, no, if it's not tube amp, it's, you know. So I was one of those guys, get off my porch for a long time, until maybe the last 4 or 5 years when Sims have really started turning a corner and really, you know, and computers were able to do the math to represent the actual, you know, print of what that sound's supposed to be and react the way and with sag and all of that. And that's important. And I think, you know, 10 years from now, I'll probably be like, oh gosh, that stuff I was using in 2024 is awful. Well, wait till you hear this, you know? And, but I haven't been like that in the past. I didn't like it from the beginning, and I was just a very, like, you know, no, you plug into an amplifier and you mic it properly. So, but yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I plug into this DI and then I choose whatever amp I want at any time during the mix or whenever. So.
Yeah, Logic is a beautiful thing too. Especially with the Alchemy that it comes with too.
Yeah, Alchemy's great. Yeah,
I haven't used it too much. I was actually trying. You know, I have a mini keyboard that I have not been using as much as I probably should have, and unfortunately, life kind of gets in the way, working 2 jobs and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So then doing this as like a 3rd job, so you can imagine how tough it is.
Yeah, I bet.
But you're all right too in terms of like 10 years from now, people are going to be like, "Oh man, that's so old school" or something like that.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yep. Yeah, you remember Neural DSP? Gosh, those guys thought they were awesome. And I love Neural. All their stuff's, you know, not all of it, but a lot of it, you know. Yeah. I use that Gojira plugin a lot. I use the Petrucci plugin a lot. Their Mesa 2C Plus. Very, very accurate. I mean, I challenge people to, you know, is it live or is it Memorex? And I can fool some of the most, you know, purists out there. So, yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is about the attack too. It seems like Sims for a long time, they didn't get the attack right. Like, you know, like that you'd hear from like a Marshall, you know, you don't hear it doesn't sound like it's pushing air and smacking. Instead, it sounds kind of like it's sagging, and you don't have control over that. Let's fix that. A lot of them have.
To jump into the next one here, I guess, describe your process of like doing a song, for instance. Do you always want to write the music first and then put the lyrics on top afterwards?
Yeah, so, well, with Bond of Iniquity, definitely. Yeah, I write the music first. I'll put a click track on, and I'll riff out. And I'll take the riffs that were first in time, and then go through the ones that were in time and see what I actually liked. And I'll see what would work for, you know, an intro, a pre-chorus, or a pre-verse, a verse, a breakdown, chorus, bridge, outro. You know, I have this on a template, and I just basically I insert them in, and then listen to it as a whole. And decide if it's fluid, you know, if it's something that sounds like a song, or does it sound like a bunch of, you know, riffs? Do they go good with each other? And when I decide that, then I'll double it. I always double the guitars, pan left and right, like most. And then I'll do the bass. And sometimes I add the keys, if there are any keys or any kind of like that kind of stuff. I'll add that. Sometimes before vocals, but a lot of times I'll just do, you know, like guitar, bass, drums, and then I'll go to the vocals. And the vocals are a completely different process. And this is another thing that I don't know if this is going to continue beyond this album, or if I'm going to actually go in and pick specific chapters and verses. But so when I'm done with the music, when I'm ready to do vocals, I'll grab my Bible and I'll pray, and I'll ask God, show me where this is supposed to go. Give me that verse that's gonna, let somebody know that you're real and that this is real. And then I open the Bible, and where I open that Bible, I look and I read both sides, and I decide where the lyrics are from that. And that's been every song. So I'm not writing them.
I was going to say, the instant you open the book, you'd be like, you did that on purpose, didn't you?
I mean, every single time. And it's usually where I look to first. It's crazy because, I mean, you open it up and it's like, okay, there's a lot of words there. What are you going to choose out of all that, And it just seems like the story is just like, it's right there. It's like, your eyes should be focused here. Read this, okay? And I'm like, well, that would fit in as a great chorus. That's powerful. Okay, so because I don't want to go out of context, so before that has to be verse. And so now I'm going, okay, well, this is the verse. How am I going to fit that into the verse? And that's the process. And then I'll demo it. I'll do some passes of it until it starts, working song wise. And but it's all about cadence first, fitting the words in to the, with the beat or with the right melody. And then after that, trying to sing, the song for real. So. And I'm not a singer. I'm a guitar player. So everything else is out of necessity. So I'm doing my best.
I was saying, you never took any chorus classes or tried to do any sort of vocal harmonies or anything like that?
Well, I do vocal harmonies for sure. And I do it, I guess, the cheat way. I have a keyboard right here. And, to match I'll find, where the harmony's at. And then I'll say, okay, that note right there, duh. Okay, that's what I got to do. So I got to remember, duh, when it comes up. So it's like click, 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 and then boom, and try not to hear what I sang before, and then listen to the two, and is it going wobble, 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 or is it clicking? Hey, that's a take, So that's my science.
Yeah.
I am not a trained vocalist by any means, and I've done vocals for various bands, again, out of necessity, because a good vocalist is really hard to find, and I'm not saying I'm a good vocalist. I'm just saying, I've done it before, and I found what I can do and what my limitations are, so I try to stay, within that. I've been called a poor man's Dave Mustaine before, and I like that. I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad thing to be. Dave's cool, man. He's an all right dude. So I dig Megadeth.
Yeah, Dave is a cool dude, and I wonder if he still have a lot of regret over the whole thing with his little brief stint with Metallica.
Oh, I'm sure he talks about it quite a bit. Yeah, he's always, it seems like he's always going back. That's a demon that seems like it's going to be haunting him his whole life. But gosh, can you imagine the biggest metal band? You're gone.
Yeah.
What?
Just one day. Here today, gone tomorrow. Actually, right. I feel like it's more Cliff Burton, because I think he's already settled the past with Lars and James. Maybe Kirk, too. I don't know if there was any bad blood between those two, but I feel like it's more with Cliff, because I thought they had a little bit of bad blood, and Dave didn't have the chance to make amends with him.
Yeah. Gosh, that's tough, too, man. And that's a life of regret right there. Oof. Yeah, I don't envy that. But you know what? Out of all this, we got Megadeth, too. So we got two bands.
I think I always love it was playing Good Morning and Black Friday. It was like one of the little chorus he does in the beginning there.
Yeah.
And then Dave just goes, "What the fuck is this?" or something like that. And I think it was during '86 too. So I think people were always making fun of that too. So it's almost like he's making fun of Metallica or something like that.
Right.
Or at least that's the Megadeth fans making fun of Metallica fans or something like that.
That's a thing. That's a big thing on the internet. Oh my gosh. I stay out of that.
Yeah.
I just like the music, man.
Just listen to that damn album already, will you?
Right? Seriously.
But I guess, what sort of social media are you on? I guess, do you try YouTube and all those other guys?
Yeah, so I've been on YouTube for a long time, just a personal account, and I've been uploading music on there for quite a while. Bond of Iniquity's been on there since the first single. So, it was late October, I think October 23rd is when exactly when I started all that. And yeah, so there's 4 songs on YouTube, and I go through DistroKid, so wherever they send it, I know of Apple Music, Spotify, and all the rest. And I'm, they put them out, and I get a thing that says, "Hey, you're on Deezer," and I'm like, "Heck's Deezer?" Oh, it's something in France. Okay, cool. Hope the French like it. I don't know, but yeah. So I'm on wherever DistroKid puts it. I'm on. But as far as social media goes, I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. And that's pretty much it. I try not to do too much of that. I got out of social media completely for quite a while when I wasn't putting a lot of music out. I just stayed on YouTube just so I had a place to put the stuff. And making videos is just weird to me because I'm not a video guy, but so I'll put out like lyric videos, So excuse me if you go to YouTube and you're like, your videos are lame. Like, just don't watch the video. Just listen to music. If you don't like the music, then hey, you're done with me. But yeah, so I'm not a huge social media guy, but Facebook I have been a lot lately, especially since I've been finding a lot of like-minded people in the Christian community. And they're teaching me a ton. This is how you learn, and reading your Bible and listening to others that are very knowledgeable about this, and also knowing what's not to do and not to listen to, and So I'm a student when it comes to a lot of that, and when it comes to a lot of social media stuff too. I'm not the most tech savvy guy when it comes to that. My technical expertise is in audio, so I've done that for 30 plus years, professionally. So that's where I'm at.
That's good to hear. And I guess, is there something you hope to achieve with your music and social media, or at least the ones that you are on your social media?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Is there something you hope to achieve with your music as well as your social media, or at least the social media that you are on?
Yes. A thought also when I decided to do Bond of Iniquity is that, well, number one, I don't want to write my own lyrics because I don't want to mislead. I don't want someone to interpret and have that back and forth arguing. I wanted scripture. And also because for so long I was part of, the metalhead group, the secular metal community. There's a lot of good people, like solid people, man, like good-hearted, just really cool people that have no idea who Jesus is or have a completely distorted idea. And so with this, it kind of gives us some common ground with the music part of it. And hearing the vocals, the tone is also familiar. But the words, if you're listening to the words, maybe it sparks interest, and maybe one of those people that don't know anything or have a distorted view of who Jesus is and what the gospel says, maybe they'll be interested, and maybe that'll inspire them to open up a Bible and see what the heck I was talking about there. Not what I was talking about, but what the Bible was talking about. And hey, spreading the word, that's what we're supposed to do. So that to me, above anything, really, I'd like to see some people that are in that community in heaven, and just be like, nice. Hey, we did it, Told you.
Told you, amigo.
Yeah.
So, good to have you along for a ride. So That's all good. Yeah. when it comes to the metal scene, I think a lot of people would say like religion is stupid or it's along those lines, and
Yep.
or they think that science is the way to go too. So
There's that debate always. Yeah. Science and religion, which is not even really religion that you're against. It's like they don't even have the foundation of what any of it's about. They don't even, like I had a lot of misunderstanding of what it is to be saved. I thought through, good works that, well, I'm a good person. Hey, I donated to this charity. And I think good people that think that, it sucks for them, it really does. It's almost not fair, because of the society we live in and because the things you hear every day and just how people are in general. It's when you find out that this world isn't really what we think it is, then it's like, boy, things are actually a lot different. And when you start reading the Bible and start understanding, man, it's life changing in so many ways, And I want people to get that. And if I can be helpful in that way, but like I said, I'm no teacher. I'm learning. And so I figured that would be the best way. Direct scripture would be the best way to do this for now, anyway. I got a name for it too, which I don't know if this is self-serving. I don't know, but I thought of a name for it called Revelation Metal, and the definition was any style of metal, any subgenre of metal, with the lyrics and titles only scripture. So, and I know of, there's plenty of Christian bands, but are there anybody doing just straight scripture? And it doesn't matter what style of metal. You could be doom, you could be thrash, you could be whatever. I haven't heard of it, I thought that was kind of cool, and it would open a door for maybe others to do, the same kind of thing. I think that'd be cool. See what, somebody's take is on a psalm, with metal. That'd be cool, man. I'd like to hear it. So.
Well, as I try to avoid making too many genres, to be honest, we got too many these days.
Right.
It's a little tragic as well. So.
Yeah. I hear you.
But I do see what you're doing. Yeah. And
I put that on Facebook, and I put that on YouTube too, very, boldly, that, hey, this is Revelation Metal. That's the name of the album, by the way, too. I've got an eight song album coming out called Revelation Metal, and it's because of that. Revelation Metal is, scripture only. So
actually, you got to do a song based on that, because you had black metal, which was done by Venom, and there was death metal by Possessed. I don't know if they did thrash metal or anyone else. I know those two because they always talked about the genre itself, where they kind of made it symbolically meant to be evil, or that sort
like
of
a song called Revelation Metal.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe after this album, but that would break my rule, because that's, unless it says Revelation Metal somewhere in the Bible. I don't. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'll have to look.
Well, yeah, the Book of Revelation, so maybe throw it there at the end.
Well, I've got a song from the Book of Revelations. I just finished mastering that yesterday. So, and of course, I mean, you could write a lot of metal out of the Book of Revelation. It's very metal. But that wasn't by my choosing. That was praying and opening the Bible. That's it, man. That's not something that I was like, well, I'm gonna do this verse because this, blah blah blah. Nope. I'm gonna pray about it, and I'm gonna see, if this is able to reach the people it's supposed to, that way. So.
Good choice. And I guess it's almost like a puzzle, and it all just comes together at some point too.
Totally. Yep.
That's pretty cool. But I guess, would you say that's maybe some of your challenges you face as a musician, is maybe trying to form the lyrics all together, or do you have many other challenges you kind of face?
That's the hardest part, for sure. I mean, as far as the music making process, but I love it. I mean, from the moment of inspiration to the final master, I love it. I love being in the studio. I love creating. It's awesome. So nothing's really hard. But yeah, that's as far as it doesn't come natural anymore, like, riffing, just sitting back, with your head back and just riffing out. That's cake. That's nothing. That's the most fun, I think. But yeah, definitely putting together the lyrics into melody and into the song. That's the hardest part. But I mean, besides just the music part of it, though, really the hardest part of it is everything else. Any kind of business side, marketing. It's exhausting, having to stay in algorithms. Not that I'm enjoying it a lot more than I used to, because when I was used to be in it, it used to be all about fighting and, casting out your opinion about everything that you didn't know about, no more of that. Now I'm around like-minded people on there. I'm having good conversations, so I'm enjoying it a lot more. So it's getting, that part of it's getting easier. But definitely any kind of business part of this, anything outside of just the music and the inspiration is tough. It's tough for me because I'm not that side of brain guy. My wife is. So she's the other half of Bond of Iniquity, and without her, I wouldn't be doing this, or I wouldn't be able to. So.
I guess, what does she do? Does she kind of help with the whole marketing and promotion wise?
A lot of things, yeah, and just giving me the ability to dedicate this kind of time to it. I was out of town a lot. And I'd bring stuff with me to be able to write, but not like, when you're in the studio and you have access to all your stuff. That's much different than being in a hotel room with a little, this Axiom thing, I did not like writing that way. And it always ended up, just being like, just put it away. And then I ended up dragging the stuff out to wherever in the country for nothing, because I wouldn't even take it out anymore. So you're too tired from, doing long days. And now that I'm not doing that, it's, I've got a lot more time to actually be able to put into it. If you're doing it for real, it's a full-time job. It's like, it really is. You do it all the time, not necessarily writing, but something that has to do with, your brand all the time. But yeah, I'm probably about half and half now. I'm like half dedicated to, the music, and then half dedicated to everything else in life that I have to, like taking care of dogs, I've got a daughter, I got grandkids. I got, there's a lot of stuff outside of, just music. But yeah, she allows me to do as much as I am now, and it's awesome.
Well, we can't skip on that for sure. So
yeah.
I'm sorry I got to this late, but I don't know if you mentioned it during this interview, but I guess, how did you and your wife meet?
I was mixing a band called the Red Walls at a place called the Lodge at Four Lakes in Lisle, Illinois, and I was a house guy there for like 11 years. And she came in with my buddy, who is also an engineer, and his now wife is best friends with her, and introduced us. And I was actually dating someone else at the time too, and she was there. I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny, but. Like right away, we were both just really hit it off, and wasn't looking for anything like that, of course, it was just like, wow, just really cool, person, and the person that I was dating, it wasn't right, for either one of us, so that went by the wayside. And when that went by the wayside, I started dating my wife, and like from the second we started dating, never looked back. It's been 16 years in May. So, we'll be married 11 years in May.
All right, good catch there, mate.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she's really cool.
Good woman. So yep. That's all good. And congratulations. Did you say you got married in February or March?
May. Yeah.
May. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, May 25th actually, because we did our wedding. So you would have. Is it Labor Day or Memorial Day? I always get these two. You get a 3-day weekend. You get a 3-day weekend.
Memorial Day. It'll be Memorial Day.
Yeah. So we get 3 days to celebrate. So if we go somewhere, we have the extra day off of work, and that's like built into our anniversary every year.
Florida. There we go.
Yeah.
It's all good. And congratulations there, mate. I know it's a little soon, but we'll go ahead and throw it out there too. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess we'll go and jump this one. Then we got some fun questions afterwards. So I guess.
Okay.
First off, are you part of the Facebook group Band Together on Facebook?
Band Together? Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay, first off, when did you join, and what sort of advice would you give to musicians in that community?
Okay. I joined in April. I had another project going called Unincorporated, and we were brand new. That's when I entered Facebook again, specifically for that project, and we were going to try to promote it. I failed miserably. It's a bummer too, because I really like those 3 songs. I did the music, and then this other guy, Scottish McMillan, did the vocals on it. And I would give him the idea, and he would do something completely different. And at first, I'm like, and then I listened to it, I'm like, brilliant. Why am I even giving you any ideas? You're the vocalist. You're the lyric. You can write lyrics, dude. This is awesome. So we had 3 songs, and then after that, I kept sending him songs, and he wasn't responding anymore. He got into a different place. So, which allowed Bond of Iniquity. But anyway, so band together in April. I joined, and Christina and she grabbed us like right away and was like, "Hey, you guys have 3 followers. Like, oh no, we're gonna get you to 100 by tonight." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." Not that that's a big number, but I mean, hey, for someone that's brand new, hey, I'll take anything. I didn't know what to do. Like, how do I promote this? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And Facebook was very different from when I'd been in it. I mean, it was at least 5-6 years before that when I dropped out. So I didn't know what the heck I was doing. She got us going right away. And from time to time, we'll give shout outs and, promoting, she promotes everybody. And she is absolutely selfless, loves doing what she does. She has all kinds of projects within Band Together. Vox and Sticks is her cover band. She sings, her husband plays drums, and doesn't even promote that. Like, you never hear anything about it, ever. It's always about somebody else. So I'm like, man, good person to be around. She's very selfless. She's promoting the indie community. So, as far as advice for Band Together, I would say just be involved and don't put everything about yourself. Be involved in other people's projects, and be authentic about it. Like, look, there's so many people on there, so many bands on there, so many musical projects that you'll find something that you dig, and dive into it. Talk to the people, make yourself known that way, authentically. Like, just be real. Say, hey, man, I dig this. What did you do here? And when you strike up those conversations, other people see those conversations and want to interject. And then all of a sudden, hey, I'll follow you. Yeah, cool. And then all of a sudden, 1 out of 100 will be like, hey, man, I like your stuff. And then they'll have that conversation with you, and it grows and grows and grows. So, but it starts with Christina and that initial push. And I'm seeing that with a lot of, new artists on there. She gets them to that initial 100 and then says, okay, off with you. You go, go spread your wings, and then, so you just got to stay with it and just, make sure that you're a part of other bands and promoting, others, not just always, pushing like, hey, I got a new album coming out. Hey, I got a new song. I got, great things to come. You see that a lot, it's like, don't post that every day. You're going to get blocked. Don't use @followers. Yeah. Exactly. It's like blocked. I don't even care what you're saying.
For some reason, the @followers never really seemed to work with me, because it always seemed to bring up something new whenever I put the @ symbol and then you put follow. Mm-hmm. And then it was like something else. I don't know what it was. And
oh, wow.
So maybe it's a good thing it doesn't work.
They're trying to get rid of that, which is a good idea. I mean, I understand it. Yes, you do want to talk to the people that have subscribed to you, because you think that the people that subscribe to you are genuinely interested in what you have. That's why they followed you. But in reality, In the real world, it's maybe 1 out of 100 if you're lucky that are actually interested in what you're doing and not just trying to grow numbers wise. So, so it's annoying for 99 and cool for 1. I don't know if I'd be using that followers, Those numbers could be off, but you get what I'm saying.
Tragically, they might be off, but yeah, I see what you mean too.
Yep.
And going to Christina and Greg, yeah, they're pretty awesome people too. And I actually remember interviewing them. That's how I got involved with the Band Together group.
Oh, right on.
So people haven't checked out that interview too much. The numbers are still low. I don't get it. What's wrong, people?
They're putting out a lot of content, and I think people are like catching up. The numbers are growing. I've been looking at it lately, and I want to be active on Monday nights or Thursday nights whenever she does the new interviews. I swear there's always an excuse, and I feel like such a dang it, I want to be on there so I can be on the active chat. There's not a lot of times when I'm able to. So I try to watch them later on. And when I do, I'll go on to, their site and be like, hey, man, watched your video. Cool that you do this, blah, 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 blah. Like we were saying, make sure you go on and you tell these people, don't keep that to yourself. That's how everybody grows. That's, they'll see that and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I like that, too. And, let's go have a conversation over on your site. And, so.
I try to do shots, too. In fact, actually, I keep putting it off because the thing I do is called the McGribb Show, which is kind of similar to what Johnny Cash used to do back then when he would give country music artists like a little platform to kind of come on and play. It was playing live on stage. It wasn't just like, here's the band, go follow them, that sort of thing, too. They actually came and performed like a song. It was like their hit single or something like that. And they would perform it live on stage. So I think it was, I don't know if it was Grand Ole Opry where he was doing it at or somewhere else, but it was one of those big venues down in Nashville where he would do it. So
okay.
I'm trying to revive that, but it's more of just shout outs at this point. And then eventually, maybe when we move to a better house with a better band cave and everything too, we can make a little pimp stage and just have people, if they're able to, because obviously get people in and around the world who probably can't travel as much as maybe some of us can, but it would be nice to do something like that. And then something like what you see with originally, well, I guess Stephen Colbert now does it now, and it was David Fetterman who used to do it back then when he used to have like those bands on the stage. So something like that would be nice.
Jenny Jones used to do that. I don't know if you remember Jenny Jones. Her show, she always had a local Chicago band playing, and she'd feature them. Like they would do, like intros or whatever. It was like, okay, we're back, and and they'd be playing in the background. But then she'd have a segment during her talk show, be like, hey, okay, well, Enough's Enough is here, and they're gonna play their new song, Fly High Michelle, and they'd be like, do do do, and it always sounded terrible. Like the mix was always like super dry. So they needed a better mix guy. I probably shouldn't say that because in case that ever gets out, that hey man, I was the guy that mixed that show because here, I'm in the city. Oh well, whatever.
I was gonna say, don't be that sort of guy. Because we're trying to refrain from using a lot of profanity in this episode.
Yeah.
It's all good too. It's good to see you on the Band Together group and everything too. So good to have you along for the ride here, Nate. But I do have to confess, I think when I found you, I was following a different group. And it gives you like suggestions for like groups to join.
Yeah.
And I saw yours and think like, oh, that's a good name for a metal band. Let's go check that out. And sure enough, it was a Christian metal band. They're like, oh my gosh, this guy's a Christian metal group.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of along those lines, like Lamb of God, for instance. When you think about it, it's almost like, oh, is it Christian or is it secular? That sort of thing.
Right.
So,
yep.
It's along those lines.
Go either way.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think you're able to win some hearts over that way, and it's like, oh man, we fell into a Christian trap right here. For some of
you know
those
what? I wouldn't even use the word iniquity if it weren't for the Bible. You never hear that coming out of my mouth. That's like not a word that I would say. That came like straight from Acts. I'm like, oh man, and this all makes sense. Oh, it's great.
Acts was so metal, man.
Right?
Yeah, that's good. That was a good choice too, nonetheless. Good choice for the name. So
right on. Thanks.
All right, Nate. We breezed through the questions here pretty good, and we actually talked for a good hour and 15 minutes right now. So let's go ahead and jump into the fun questions.
Okay.
So. We'll start with the first one right here. Which one would you consider as your favorite food?
Well, growing up around Chicago, pizza. I love deep dish pizza. I love a lot of not chains, but local deep dish pizza. I like Italian beef. Most kinds of pasta. I think all kinds of pasta, actually. There's not much food I don't like. I love food, man. So, yeah. But pizza's probably tops, for sure. Yep.
I would say you got a lot of Italian blood in you.
I'm a mutt. I've got everything. But if you're around Chicago long enough, you're gonna end up. Yeah, there's pizza places everywhere, and it's not just Little Caesars. You got Casanos and it's Italian people's last names all over the place, and you got to try them all.
Sounds like Pokemon. We gotta catch them all, that sort of thing.
Right.
Actually, from where I'm from, I think they might vary. I don't know. I want to say Chicago deep dish, maybe some sort of variant of it where it's maybe just thicker per se. It's not maybe a true Chicago deep dish.
Like a pan pizza. Yep.
Something like that, yeah.
Yep.
But I think I really dislike those ones that are like the real thin ones. They just like fall apart once you like get it like split off from the crust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
that's what my wife likes.
Or it's like the crust is like real thick too. It's like all doughy and everything too.
Yep.
So good, but maybe it's like chewy and it's like real dry. It's almost like hard to breathe, for instance, too. So you have to like chug a water after you're done swallowing it.
Yeah. That's why I don't order pizza when I'm not in this area. Like if I'm on the road, I won't eat pizza because it's always a disappointment. Well, not always. I shouldn't say that there's no good pizza out there, but you tend to get spoiled when you have the choices that we have here as far as pizza goes. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. To each his own, too.
Yeah, exactly.
But I did forget to ask this, too. How is the music scene in Chicago recently? Have you checked out any groups, any venues ever since COVID kind of came and went?
I don't know. All the music venues that I liked when I was playing in bands a lot and playing out, they're gone. So, and as far as the scene goes, I'm not a part of it anymore. So, I mean, they're still doing shows at Metro downtown, things are just a lot different. When I was growing up in bands, like you did the pay to play thing, there's a thing called Water Mania, where you would get with 5 or 6 other bands, and you'd have to sell tickets, so many tickets to be able to play this, and so to play Metro. Or there's a place in River Grove called the Thirsty Whale, which the absolute greatest venue of all time. I can't imagine a greater place. It's everything. It was my childhood. It was my teenage and in my 20s. I love that place so much, and it's gone. I mean, they leveled it. It's like it's not even a gas station anymore. I think it's just an empty lot. It's right next to a great place called Gene and Jude's Hot Dogs, man. Awesome hot dogs after the show, And back then they would do all ages and then kick all the kids out and then do 21 and over shows. I don't know if they still do that at any places. None that I know of around here, but that was a cool time to be alive when that place. And another place, there's a place in Niles, Michigan called the White House, and it's been replaced. It's called the White House 2, new owners and everything. But we used to frequent that place too, and man, so much fun up there. And same thing as far as bands go. It was pay to play. You would sell tickets even if you're from 50, 60 miles away in Indiana. You please come see my show, or if you don't, can you just buy a $10 ticket? Please, or $5 tickets. They're not like they are now, where it's like $20 on up. So yeah, I don't know what the scene is. I would imagine it's about the same though, because like the same papers are out. They're still filled up with bands. I don't know. There's a lot of music that's being played out that I wouldn't really go and see, or on purpose anyway. If I stumbled into a place and was like, oh, hey man, these guys sound cool. But yeah, I don't go see a lot of local bands anymore. Occasionally I'll go and see some of my favorites. Like we said, Ted Nugent, he said, he's doing his last tour. He's retiring. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go see Ted one last time. Kiss, I did that 5-6 years ago when they came out to Toyota Park. I saw them at a 3-day festival thing. That was cool. That was like an all-day thing. Code Orange was there. Lamb of God, Meshuggah, like everybody, Megadeth, they were all there, man. It was awesome. And Kiss was the headliner. So
That's an odd mix, having Kiss with like all those other metal groups.
it was 3 days of that. Yeah, so like Black Label Society was the headliner one night. Judas Priest on another. And then Kiss was the final night. I went the final day from noon till after midnight. So it was, and I haven't done anything like that since. I'm getting older. Can't stand for that long. It's like,
oh, my legs are killing me. It's like Jimmy Christmas. I'm old.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. No, but that does sound badass nonetheless. So that's all cool.
Yeah.
I really wish I had taken some pictures or photos of that. That would have been awesome. Or videos of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because recently, when I start going to venues too, I want to actually make videos too, because those will last a lot longer than just like seeing once, and then it's just a memory thing.
Right.
That comes in every now and again. I'd be like, man, I was there, and those guys kicked some major butt and everything too. So,
yep.
That sounds pretty cool. And I think Chicago always gets a bad rap for one amount of bad violence and stuff like that too, but they never really cover like any of the good stuff too, with like those concerts you're talking about too, or even going to Chicago Deep Dish, all these pizza joints and everything too, stuff that brings the community together.
The last thing that I was excited about in Chicago music-wise was the industrial explosion in the early 90s. So that's over 30 years ago. A lot of people haven't even been alive that long, so it's like I don't know. Not to say that everything that comes out of there, isn't exciting or, whatever, but yeah, I don't know. We had Smashing Pumpkins, we had Cheap Trick, Chicago. That's yeah.
You guys had your fair share of music too, so pretty much like any other major city in the U.S. too. So
yeah.
For the next fun questions here, and this is a new one I put in recently too, so it's the most important one that there is imaginable. Ranch or blue cheese?
Blue cheese.
You a blue cheese guy?
Yep.
Dip your wings in all of it too?
That's my mom's fault. Yeah, she got me on blue cheese early because she was always making me eat stuff I didn't want to eat. Oh gosh, moldy cheese, no way. Oh, I like it. I don't know why. But so.
Somehow it works. And we got our first blue cheese guy because everybody else has been saying ranch so far.
Oh, nice. My wife's a ranch person, so like if we're doing wings, we'll get both.
So it's an even split, to say the least. So.
Yep.
All right, that's all good. Now, for the next fun questions here, what would you consider as your favorite movie?
The Crow. I love the original Crow. Even the second one, just for Iggy Pop's cameo in it. Brandon Lee's not in it, but there's still a lot of cool stuff in it. The original Star Wars trilogy, of course. Yeah. There's a rom-com that I love. I don't care if I'm just going to say it. It's called Love Actually. And it's like a bunch of stories intertwined. My wife and I watch that 3-4 times a year at least. It's great. All kinds of famous actors in it. Liam Neeson's in it, and Claudia Schiffer. Like they're just like random cameos of people. But yeah, it's a good movie. I love Love Actually. So
that's what I did say. Lord of the Rings. I would have thought Lord of the Rings would be in that mix.
Nope.
No.
I mean, that'd be my wife. She likes those kind of things. Star Wars was really it for me as far as like any kind of sci-fi type stuff. I don't know. I just like when I watch movies, I like to laugh. I like comedies, stupid, forgettable comedies. Like not forgettable, but Friday, like stuff like that. Don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Cracks me up. Like there's a lot of movies like that I'll just sit there and I'll laugh, because especially after if you had a hard day at work, you don't want to come home and be like super thinker again, watching CSI and all that stuff. I'm not that guy. I want to laugh. I want to unwind and laugh. And so put on a comedy. Lot of the knucklehead Adam Sandler stuff, like his earlier stuff. I'll watch that a billion times and just laugh, at the same joke over and over. I don't care. Whatever.
I'd say it's also my mom's fault for getting me into like those crime dramas, whether it was like British or the CSIs that you had mentioned right there. So yeah. I think the one CSI out in Las Vegas too, that one tend to get, I was going to say dramatic, but it was always like visually like, oh my gosh, that sort of thing too, because you see like how people are probably committing the murders with like these little flashes here, like how it all happens.
Right.
So I was like, this is a little too graphic right here for us. So
yeah, I don't like that stuff either. Like I used to like horror movies, and I can't do it anymore. And it hasn't been just lately. I mean, it's been probably the past 10 years or so. I liked the 3 Rob Zombie, House of Thousand Corpses and all that. And like now I can't even turn it on. Like I'm just like, oh gosh, I don't know. It jolts me in the inside, and I just can't do it anymore. I don't want to feel like that.
It's a repulsion moment. It just all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
That's my old self. We left the old self behind, to be honest. Or if we want to say metaphorically, we left that behind.
Right.
Along the lines. Right. For the next fun questions, first off, do you drink by any chance?
Not anymore. I used to. And funny thing happened. My wife became allergic to it. She turns red. She'll have a drink of wine and she'll turn red. With me, I get really stuffed up now. If I drink a beer or have a mixed drink, I get really stuffed up. And then also, if I decide to drink more than that, my hangovers last days, like seriously, like a long time, and it has to do with age, of course. But yeah, it's just not worth it, man. I just don't do it. Yeah.
So it's
I like iced tea.
Yeah.
I like unsweetened iced tea and the blackest coffee you can give me.
Well, I hope you're not like a Mexican jumping bean afterwards if you drink one too, just bouncing off the walls and all that stuff too. So actually, it seems like your repulsion factor from horror movies now carried over into drinking. So I guess it's actually a double good thing now.
It really is. It's like a blessing in disguise. It is, because I mean there was a time when, especially when I was doing clubs, where if you're doing cover bands and you're hearing 8675309 every night, you're gonna do some drinking. You're gonna do something. You know what I mean? You're gonna be like, I just can't hear this anymore. And sometimes to get through it, I made a lot of bad choices. So.
I think the guy who was playing out of the jukebox was doing it because it was good luck charm for the football team that was winning.
Right? Yeah.
So that he played the Alanis Morissette song for probably the 10,000th time. So.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, Jesse's Girl, like all the classic rock stuff. And there was a lot of bands in Chicago that are really good at it. It's just that, if that's all you hear every night, it wears on you, So.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. All right. And the final one is. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
Go ahead.
I was just jumping into the last question. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I just, if anybody's interested in the music, if you've already been saved, if you could do me a favor and just pass it on to somebody that's not. And if you're not saved, listen to it. Listen to the lyrics. Even if you think musically what I'm doing is dated, and I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to say that, especially after what I've been hearing lately. I'm like, whoa, this is where music's at now. Oh my gosh. Like, but I just really want people to get the message of it and get turned on, to, opening up a Bible, and maybe we'll see each other again after all of this. So that's
That'd be nice. All right. Yep. And actually, before we do jump into the last of the fun questions too, I guess, you got any promotion for new music coming out? Give us the spotlight.
Yeah, well, so there's four singles. How I'm doing this album, there's 8 songs, and I've been releasing it single by single as I complete them, because I'm too antsy. I can't wait. I'm like, oh gosh, what wait 4 months to release all this? No, I'll be bored with it by then. So I've been doing it single by single. There's 4 singles out now. I just finished 2 more, and that's going to be the last 2 singles that I put out as singles. I'm going to finish the 7 and 8, and then put the whole thing out as an album. It's called Revelation Metal. Everything is straight scripture. I'm representing. It's getting a little bit more diverse. I mean, you could definitely say that it's thrash, like old school thrash, old school thrash, Bay Area thrash kind of stuff. I've got some doom. There's a song that I just completed that the cadence of the vocals are like hardcore, and I've never been into any hardcore band. So there's, hopefully there's a little bit for anybody, and then also most importantly the message. So.
All right, sounds good. I guess
yep.
Are you going to do it on a month by month basis in terms of the songs you're going to release, or you got a new one coming out this month?
No rhyme or reason, man. It's DistroKid says wait a month. You put it up there and say don't do it. Don't schedule it for any closer than a month. I'm always like 3 weeks. 3 weeks is all I'm waiting. Because I don't know. I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at promoting, marketing, all that. I'm just awful at. I need somebody to take control of it, honestly, because I don't know what I'm doing. I just, and for me to hammer people every day with like, hey man, I got a song coming out in 3 weeks. Are you gonna remember that in 3 weeks? No, you're gonna be like, dude, quit spamming me every day. So I don't know how to do that correctly without making people uneasy. But yeah, so it probably in the next month, those 2 songs will be out. And then probably another month for the album. So I'm guessing maybe April-ish is when the album will come out. Hopefully sooner. I don't know.
Right.
It's when it's done, I'm like, I want to be like, here, hey.
So it's like coming out with a silver platter and everything too. Your dish, good sir.
Exactly.
All right. I can't wait to hear them, mate. So
cool.
Keep us posted whenever you get close to coming out too. That's why I say when you have an official release date, then maybe do it like 2 weeks before. Try something like that.
Okay. All right. Cool. Good.
Maybe a week before. We'll see what happens. I'll leave it up to you guys. All right.
Okay.
So Nate, for the last of the fun questions right here, what would you say is currently your favorite song, or a song you've been listening to a good bit recently?
So Lillian Axe again. Their latest album, which they're going to have a new album this year. But the one that they just completed, there's a song called "I Am Beyond" by Lillian Axe, and it's probably my favorite song of anything in the past few years. Really, it's really good. Great message. Steve Blaze is a Christian. I don't know if they're considered a Christian band now, but they have, the crosses on the stage. And if you talk to him personally, he'll tell you all about his faith. And he's really cool dude from Louisiana and been doing this a long time. And so probably I Am Beyond. Another long-time favorite song of mine is a song called "A Needle in Your Pain," also by Lillian Axe. And Steve wrote that song about my friend Brian Bowles, who died of cancer at the age of 25. And this was back, in 92, I think it was 92, 93, I think 92. But he wrote it specifically for him and dedicated it to him on the album, which we thought a rock star doing that is like the coolest thing in the world. It was. So that song has always been right here. And it's one of those, though, that you get choked up. It's not one to rock out to. It's just, it's sad. It describes his life and what he was dealing with before he died. So, but yeah, I would say probably those 2 songs, and by, both being by Lillian Axe. I hope anybody that sees this goes and checks out Lillian Axe, because they're freaking awesome. They're really good. Great guitar.
I want to say I maybe heard about them, but I think I really got into it too. So I think I have to owe you guys an apology for that. So
it was definitely a thing of they came from glam. They were a band called Stiff, before they became Lily and Axe, and they took 2 of the members from Stiff, and then they became Lily and Axe. And yeah, the first 3 albums are just like the best 80s glamish metal. And then after that, he started getting a little bit angrier, a little bit heavier type stuff. And I was like kind of mirroring that at the time too with my own taste, and like, man, we're growing together. This is great, So I've always admired Lily and Axe.
I would say there's a couple other bands you can check out too. Some maybe still sticking around, some maybe not. But there was Sacrament, War of Ages, and Crimson Moonlight. Check out those ones and see what you think about those guys.
Crimson Moon, that's an awesome name.
It's actually believe it or not, they're out of the Scandinavian region, believe it or not. So they do like your Scandinavian sort of style black metal, but they do it in the Christian sort of style. So
cool. Unblack metal? I've seen that name thrown around. I'm just saying that because I'm trying to be one of the cool kids.
Yes, and and I hate using that too. We should just call it just Christian metal in this case. But yeah, it's technically unblack metal.
Okay.
To say the least. So, what I mean.
Yep.
So,
right on.
All right. But good choices there, mate. And we'll make sure to go check out the music afterwards too.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, Nate, we almost talked for a good hour and 40 minutes right now, but we are down to one more question. And before we jump into it, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say before we jump into it?
No. We've been talking almost all talked out about horse. I've been talking too much.
You gotta excuse Nate, he's a little hoarse right now.
Yeah.
All right. That's all good though too. So, all right. But you gotta save it up for this message right here, because this is definitely one of the more important ones too, because given what COVID has done, obviously it seems like you've been impacted pretty badly, to say the least. And looks like you kind of been having your ups and downs in life too. But it seems like you came out better and stronger, born again Christian, to say the least.
Yep.
So given those people who are perhaps still struggling, they're, in this case, quote unquote, still in the dark, for instance, what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there as we try to move forward in a post-COVID world?
Focus on Jesus. Don't focus on the world. The world will beat you down. And there's no escaping that. That's what it is. That's our reality here. He tells us to focus on him, and he'll get us through. And it's true. I promise. It's true. When you find, or when Jesus finds you, when you're open to it, it'll change your life. He's not a genie in a bottle. He's not going to do the things on command that the people have misconceptions about what he is and what this is all about. But you're going to find peace in things that you thought that were never going to go away and that would always be a drag in your life. So as far as specifically COVID, post-COVID, that's COVID is just another one of these things in this life that unfortunately are a part of it. And there's always going to be a COVID somewhere, there's always going to be something that's going to be trying to drag you down, trying to pull you astray, and keep your eyes on Jesus, like he told us to. That's it.
Spoken like a true prodigy. All right. Thank you so much, Nate. It's good to actually shed some light in this dark world these days, too, especially with how crazy things have been. So, thank you so much, Nate. All right.
Thank you.
So, Nate, we've reached the end of my podcast right here. Boy, oh boy. I think we're both getting a little hoarse right now. In fact, I think my cold's getting a little bit worse right now.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry.
It's been, actually, it was terrible yesterday just trying to do it, because I was trying to do it with Jeff Plemons from Letters from Saints. And you can definitely hear it near the end, too. I'll post that episode eventually. And then it'll be like, oh, man, he's just getting worse and worse as we keep going along.
Voice is just changing. Yeah.
It's either that or you just keep dragging it on. It's like if you don't blow your nose or just try to hawk up whatever is coming out, too, it just starts building up. But we fight through it. Eventually it was going to catch up to me sooner or later. So what can you do?
Yeah.
Nate, I want to thank you again so much again for coming on right here. And I guess, do you have any final words? Any shout outs you want to give before we close?
Just, Bryan, thank you. Thanks for having me on and giving me the opportunity to explain what's going on here and the reasons behind all of this. I appreciate this. And the more opportunities I get like this, hopefully the more people that will be open to getting saved. Be cool.
One would hope. So we'll see what happens. I know you mentioned about your social media earlier, but just for the audience's sake, can you just reiterate what social media you're on, streaming platforms?
Facebook and YouTube, Bond of Iniquity. If you search Bond of Iniquity as one word on either platform, that I'm the only one. So
that's all right, it. Sounds good. So everyone, my guest today was Nate, hailing from Chicago. He's part of the Christian metal band Bond of Iniquity. So make sure you go check out his music, go subscribe to his channels and everything too. You guys are going to do wonders out there and spreading the light and everything too. So Nate, thank you again so much again for coming on. Stay safe. God bless you. Rock on.
God bless you, Bryan.
And stay tuned, y'all.